A whirlwind of nostalgia shines a light-tinted rainbow by the brimming tears of joy that swell in my eyes. That's how I felt in November of 2014. But do Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire stand the test of time? Some say it was underwhelming and we're left with a sour taste due to lack of a battle frontier. But this game is jam-packed with due respect to details so vivid and a rich culture so immersive and intertwined. It is easy to overlook this when you're breezing through the game to start breeding your competitive team. These are my favorite Pokemon games. I've played them 12 times combined. They maximize the overarching potential of their early 2000s counterparts tenfold. My friend Kevin is a Gen 3er just like me. He said he loves ORAS, but they felt completely soulless.
Soulless, he said! Soulless!
And I swore I would prove him wrong. Here are many, many small, nuanced, nostalgic details in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire that gives it all the heart that it has for me. Right off the bat, the protagonist is playing a Game Boy Advance SP in the back of a moving truck. If that doesn't scream 2003, I don't know what does. Take note of that Azurill doll in the back of the truck because it winds up sitting atop your kitchen cupboard. The start of the game has a simple and clean indication of how much heart there is to come when you notice that they took the time to add actual footprints on the ground at the site of the tutorial's artificial roadblock, and other things that were merely just described in text in the originals can now be seen visually with the updated graphics. You may have also noticed that they've retconned the location of the opening intro movie of the original Ruby and Sapphire version. It now has a geographical home at Route 103, which now becomes an emotional landmark, binding you to your rival at the beginning of the game. Maybe we'll return here later. Also, this mysterious lake to the right sparks a sense of adventure. We can't go there yet, but maybe, one day when we're strong enough to surf, we'll come back to this later. We knew Professor Birch was a bulbous buffoon scared of zigzagoons, but did you know he's also an accomplished author? His are not the only books found in the game. In Rustbro's Trainer School, we can see individually designed children's books. One about type advantages, one about Pokeballs, gyms, medicine, Gulpin, Skitty, Pikachu, berries, Shroomish, Ralts, Love Disc, and dare I say a shiny Aeron? All throughout Hoenn, they utilize native Pokemon appearances and architecture and design, especially for secret base decorations. One Pokemon idolized in Hoenn's architecture is the famed Lord Helix. Though not native to the land, we can see Mr. Stone has quite an affinity for this religious figure. The Helix shell adorns even the walls of Devon's condominiums. You can find an Ace Trainer idling in the hallway. Once you take the float stoat from him, he gains 300 pounds and becomes a hiker. Way to put the load on, pal! Also incorporated into Devon's architecture are the sun and moon. If only we were smart enough to know that these were foreshadowing Generation 7. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire took the Pokénav and turned it into a full-on smart device built into the bottom of the screen. Every location visually shows what Pokemon can be encountered on each route, which makes the routes so much more alive just to walk to and just see the Pokemon that you can find, even without seeing them in the overworld. And forget the fact that you can search for them like it's Google. The background designs are ripped right from the Game Boy games. What a sensational fit to blend the future with the past. This lends itself to overworld sprites that give certain Pokemon special recognition, such as Roselia, Sharpedo, Skitty, and more. Kecleon gets no recognition because, well, his is invisible. Similarly, Wailmer, Sharpedo, and Kyogre are given special treatment when surfing and diving. And Sharpedo actually moves faster in the water. Diving around Hoenn is a real treat. It gives you some stellar angles of Pokemon that inhabit the deep sea. Did I mention that they fixed that too much water encounter rate too? The other nav features also include a Versus Seeker style application that shows trainers you can rematch. It gives every trainer, gym leader, and Elite Four member memorable flavor text that further make these games the king of context and character development. It treats every location in the region the same way, with more contextual descriptions. You can also see detailed information about your berries and secret bases. Plus, the BuzzNav has some juicy gossip for more world building and character immersion. The dialogue in this game, especially with Team Aqua and Magma, is hilarious. It's witty, self-deprecating, and it's a complex journey within itself. It's particularly rewarding when the user can choose between two responses, and the following dialogue actually changes in respect to your choice. Certain towns like Littleroot and Rustboro will show a bird's eye view of the land when interacting with the signpost. Your head will even turn towards a sign as you walk past. You can sit on everything! And you can turn your head when you're sitting too. Making our way down to Dewford in this glorious visualization that I only wish was longer, you can see a familiar map inside one of the homes. You might recognize this image from PokeEarth on Cerebi.net. Is this a nod to the successful resource of Pokemon information, or just a lazy developer trick? We know what's trending in Dewford is not always PG rated. And how much can I say about the cave painting in Granite Cave? I mean, this is just stuff of legends right here. You even got the Delta Triangle flying through the sky. Across the sea at the Slateport Market, we'll find one of the many Hoenn Coexistence Force action figure dolls. Talk about world building, these optional boxes of text provide so much life to the Hoenn region and illustrate a time now past for us adults when action figures were all the rage. They were invented by the TV station, but were faded out of popularity by the Context Spectaculars. A trip to Stern Shipyard reveals some interesting sound design detail. Also, we get a glimpse at one of the many awe-striking camera angle changes that Hoenn has to offer, letting us see the full breadth of the environment they created for us to relive. There's so much to discover in the museum, such as a water sample from each other region in the Pokemon world. They even speak to the environmental makeup of each region, such as Sinnoh's snow. The Oceanic Museum's music is a gorgeous reimagining of the SS Anne theme from Red and Blue versions. Strangely enough, the soundtrack version of this track is missing elements in the middle of the song, and almost sounds like a single MIDI instrument is just playing out the notes. I thought I was crazy for the longest time, but when you listen to them back to back, you can definitely hear the difference. Some songs from Ruby and Sapphire received two different remixes to match the context of when they are played, being the Fortree City / Secret Base theme and the Southern Island / Sea Mauville theme, both of which were just simply identical in the originals, now revived with a certain environmental texture to them. You may have been bored by the Context Spectacular and its Z moves before Z moves were cool, but you can talk to the electrician out front to let your 3DS camera take care of the background for you. Contests make a resurgence in these games, and introduce a new character in Licia. Many see her as an annoying face painted on an unskippable story beat, but she is far more than that. If you attempt to be a master in each contest category, she will antagonize the skirt off of you with her busted Altaria. If her mannerisms and outfits seem familiar, she's Wallace's niece. She also has a groupie, Chaz. I love how they repurpose the box-carrying Machoke for his partner. If you do manage to curb stomp Licia on each master rank, your Pokemon's icon will adorn the top floor of contest halls. Their portraits can also be displayed at the Lily Cove Museum, which by the way has some dope art inside. The sign outside proudly advertises your success in the Contest Spectacular. You'll become a celebrity around Hoenn. Fans will gather in the hall following your victories to give you gifts, and some will even recognize you at the fan club in Lily Cove. But most notably, a master victory in each category wins you the Contest Star Ribbon, which your partner can beautifully flaunt when entering battle as if it were a shiny animation. Ribbons are such an underrated feature of these games and can truly show how traveled and loved your Pokemon partner is. Apart from contests, you can get ribbons for maxing out effort values, winning every level of super training, spending $1 million, and more. You can even get one for each day of the week by visiting Mauville Hills. You can also get one for reaching max affection in Pokemon and Me, which if you explore for more than 2 minutes shows how much love each Pokemon's animations were created with. On your way to Mauville City, don't miss the Trick House, which was loads of zany fun in the originals but is even more complex now. This is one of the many left field curveballs thrown in Generation 3 that make it so memorable. We'll get to more later. One of my favorite places added in the remakes is the Mauville TV studio, which so vividly details the interior workings of a TV news set. You can sit in various places around the studio for a new angle, something I really can't get enough of. Continuing the world building, Mauville TV also has its own mascot, Telemauve. He's a little TV set shaped like Mauville City with eyes that will actually move around. Better watch out. Mauville City got a complete overhaul, making a whole city out of a shopping complex? If you go back to the originals, you'll see how underwhelming that is compared to what we have in the remakes. Right now, you can only choose one between the Mach and Acro bike, but once you've shown off each to the right people, you can come back and keep both of them. This isn't just for convenience either. The Safari Zone incorporates a specific puzzle that requires having both bikes at the same time. When you ride your bike, your Pokemon on the bottom screen will tumble around. Whoa! How cool is this? You got the first floor, and you can take the stairs to the third floor. What's on the second floor? An elite exclusive club shrouded in mystery until you are worthy to gain access. You'll join the likes of Rock Smash Guy and Rotation Frump once you get up there. There are so many side stories hidden inside, like the strange cult ritual that sacrifices several men to create Mr. Bonding. Mauville really shines for its steep characterization through flavor text, something true of the entire Hoenn region. So many NPCs clue you into the culture, lore, and secrets of the region. But before we leave, let us pay our respects to the fallen game corner. Can we just stare at this for a second? Jeez, I wish you could move the camera around for yourself, because I would just stare at this all day. When we make our way through the ashes and build ourselves a little flute that we can reuse over and over again, we'll finally get to Flarbor and then to Lynette's house. It's quite the mess, but if you spy on her a bit, you can tell that she's in cahoots with Bill from the Kanto region. She'll even offer to switch the Move Pokemon feature to first on the list on your PC. Meteor Falls is quite a glorious sight to see. If you surf around a bit, you'll see lots of neat angles and gorgeous clear water visuals. Something better illustrated in the remakes is how the water trickles down the rocky stairwell, and they actually show it trailing off to the side back into the lake. The ash falling from the sky will actually change direction in opposition to the direction you're moving, while it falls directly down if you're standing still. Neat! Lava Ridge Town is no longer home to a hot, sweaty spa trip with two old ladies, but you can find a Kecleon nipping at you in the springs. You can still get your Why Not egg from the lady next to the guy with a corfish pinching his rear end, and she'll even give you a Togepi egg once you become the champion. Now, one thing I dislike about the remakes is that its story beats sometimes ignore the genius layout of the Hoenn region. When receiving the Go Goggles from Brendan, you're geographically encouraged to hop down the hill and explore the desert. Brendan doesn't want you to do that. He wants you to teleport back to Petalburg with him to continue the story. I believe you can actually skip this one. What you can't skip is when you defeat Norman and receive the HM for Surf. Geographically, you're encouraged to rush back to that mysterious lake from the beginning of the game and see what's beyond it, realizing it's a shortcut back to where you need to go. Crossing over to East Hoenn is a defining moment for your character's progression, even though Wally dumps you right there without an option. There is a lot in the game that's visually apparent on first glance, like the mesmerizing camera movement running through Southern Isle, the rainy expanse of Route 119 and its optional exploration, Fortree City's sound design and the wooden walkways. I particularly love how one Fortree resident remarks that you smell singed. This, along with Rydell's comment about your sneakers, give the player a lived-in sense of connectivity from one point of their journey to the next, making them feel traveled and accomplished. The night sky glimmering on the wetlands of Route 120 is breathtaking. There's even some more angles to enjoy on Mount Pyre, Lily Cove, and Moss Deep, not to mention all the cardboard stand-in shots. This young girl in Lily Cove can read the memories of your Pokemon and tell you something significant that you did while they were in your party. Neat. Notice how the player will either bend over or even sit down on their legs to match the eye level of whomever they're talking to. In Cove Lily Motel, the innkeeper is always watching TV. Later on, you'll find a Kecleon standing in his way, and he'll stay there as his new partner. There's also a poster here that clearly foreshadows going to the Alola region or even Alolan Executor. Speaking of Kecleon, Steven gives you the Devon scope to see them. This, along with the item finder and Devon scuba gear, are all incorporated into your appearance when using them. Take your time exploring the Aqua or Magma hideout. There is a load of character identities to uncover by sneaking around and hilarious things to read. There's one particular detail only in Alpha Sapphire that depicts Archie posing with a young girl and a Jirachi. It's a reference to the Japanese Tanabata festival, I hope I said that right, where people make a wish on July 7th. In Moss Deep City, you can actually navigate between the mangroves on the beach, only present here and at Sea Mauville. Oh, we'll get back to Sea Mauville later. You might recognize the mystery house with its doors blockaded. This was meant to be an e-reader event in the original days of Ruby and Sapphire, something that saw such a limited usage. But now, revitalized in the remakes, becomes an easily accessible special secret base portal if you obtain certain QR codes. Some even from the developers of the game themselves. Okay, is it time? Okay, time for my favorite bit of trivia. After you awaken Groudon or Kyogre, you're given the freedom to go anywhere you want. The game makes it obvious that the only affected areas of the drought or rain so far is in East Hoenn. Obviously, the weather forces everyone's flavor text to change. If you deviate from the path and go back to Lily Cove City during this weather, there is not one, not two, but 3 people that use the same obscure adjective to describe the weather. Aberrant. Aberrant meaning different from what is normal. This just has to be an inside joke to reward players who decided to travel this far out. More notably, the elderly couple by the lighthouse suggests that the weather was just like this decades ago, back when they were first married. It seems like we're repeating history here. One thing that's not a reward, climbing to the top of Lily Cove Market during the storm, where you are supposedly closer to the clouds, but yields no change in weather at all. Maybe you're above the clouds. When it is raining, you can see drops bouncing from the heads of certain characters. Neat! In Sutopolis City, you can find AZ's Floette's flower beneath the large tree. Neat! Soaring. Soaring. Soaring.
Come soar with me, we'll ride aboard the breeze over.
I have melted. If this isn't the coolest, most beautiful and nostalgic feature ever added to Pokemon, I don't know what it is. While soaring, you can encounter Mirage spots. They replaced the original Mirage Island from Ruby and Sapphire. Now there's tons of them, and they even appear via connecting with other players. This is the one true time where you can really see how the geography all connects in one region. Again, making Hoenn feel like the most lived in and culturally full world that we've ever had in Pokemon. Speaking of that, connectivity with other players reached its peak in this game. With X and Y's PSS system built into the Pokénav, you can match up with people anytime. And the secret bases blow the game out of the water in terms of replayability. You have endless hours of daily routine activities, ranging from collecting items to capturing flags. If you manage to steal 1,000, you get a special shiny flag like mine. Decorations from the original games were so luxurious and coveted, especially since I didn't really know how to get them all. But knowing that I can approach this with new eyes and earn that glass Pidgeot sculpture from my own secret base today just warms my heart. There's even so many interesting and rewarding new decorations. Diplomas for completing the Pokédex. This can happen apparently. And oh yeah, Kevin, all I really needed to do was show you this. The certificate acknowledging a Pokemon you've brought all the way from the original Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald games to prove how much heart has spilled onto these remastered games and how much they recognize and appreciate where they come from. They made multiplayer even more tasteful by creating secret communities for you and your friends to invade and settle in. These would be the secret meadow and the secret shore. Or if you're like me and would rather hide your secret base in the depths of the jungle, you can invite some people from Japan to come conquer the secret areas for you and create an experience farm. The devs must have known the consequences of trainer battles and secret bases, which gave us the beautiful Blissey-based level up method. Getting to level 100 for competitive play has never been easier. If you start a battle with a secret base trainer who is standing on grass, tufts of grass will appear beneath the Pokemon during the battle. Neat! Now we get to the Elite Four. Let's talk about Phoebe's dead sister taunting you before the battle. I mean, really. When you eventually defeat her and become the champion, you can find her atop Mount Pyre, talking to a grave. She's visiting her grandmother. Yes, the woman present during the Red and Blue Orb fiasco was Phoebe's grandmother, and she died since then. We know this because she's even missing from the peak of the mountain, leaving the man to share his tales long told only with himself. You can also find Winona in the post-game standing atop a tower on the 3rd floor of Mauville City. In fact, most of the gym leaders and Elite Four members can be found somewhere else besides their gym in the game. Now that you're champion, you can choose a starter from Johto, Unova, and Sinnoh the next 3 times you defeat the Elite Four. Something different chases Birch every time, including his wife. If you haven't yet, take on the insanely genius Reggie side quest. In the remakes, you can even catch Regigigas by meeting those funky and arbitrary requirements set by the game that remind you of unearthing those similar rich mysteries back in 2003. Let's not forget this game features nearly all past legendary Pokemon, so cleverly introduced through the concept of Hoopa positioning warp holes around the region. Instead of getting Delta Emerald version, we got the Delta episode, which in reality is just a lot of dialogue, but expands the story so much further and revolutionizes how we see Pokemon forever. It takes the time to retcon the connections between one Pokemon cartridge to another, suggesting that they're all their own universes, going as far to even use the word link cable. You'll remember Zinnia as she stalked you throughout your journey. Zinnia tragically addresses this with more dignity than anyone else, as she dashes the plans to simply move the meteor to another universe. Rayquaza needs no Megastone to evolve because of something a scientist calls the Mikado organ that rests within it. Mikado translates to the Honorable Gate, and is a term attributed to the Emperor of Japan. Of course, Deoxys awakens in the most epic scene in Pokemon history, and it even recreates the exact movements of the triangle on Birth Island from the original Deoxys event in Generation 3. By the way, if you crush Deoxys during the story, you can go back to Sky Pillar and catch it. It will never be shiny. After the Delta episode, you can go back to Steven's house and steal his Beldum. If you receive the shiny Beldum mystery gift from Oris's first release period, take that Pokemon to the Fossil Maniac, who even has this unique decor in his house. He'll tell you that Steven crossed 3 oceans to find it, one for each generation between 3 and 6. Also, there are many characters who never fail to remind you that the slogan for the Hoenn games is really, everybody loves Steven. You'll notice constant references to Kalos and Infinity Energy, but it's not the first time the Hoenn region has tried to harness its power. Sea Mauville is so damn cool! Look, they tilted this thing and half of it is underwater for you to explore because of it. Moving years back in time to the Mauville Project, once a mission to progress humanity, now a mystery. It was spearheaded by Watson. The goal was to take New Mauville, previously a power plant in the original Ruby and Sapphire, and create a 69-floor deep underground city for humans to inhabit. Such a feat would require serious power, and so they researched and tried to develop Infinity Energy. Workers geared up and lived on Sea Mauville, which was simply an abandoned ship in the original games. There is so much lore inside here that you should just discover for yourself. It involves several characters including Watson, Captain Stern, Doc, Professor Cosmo's father, and several unnamed NPCs that fill in the blanks not just at Sea Mauville but around the entire Hoenn region. There's also the possibility that the man who would become Mr. Bonding was also involved. as papers in Sea Mauville reference Bonding's powerless motif. Bonding may have also been suicidal, as we can find the TM for U-turn on his balcony.
There's also a crazy conspiracy theory on Reddit that can link one of the workers on Sea Mauville all the way back to Bill, the creator of the Pokemon PC.
So strap on your high skitty shirt and pour down some Sapphire extract as you see what surprises await you at Sea Mauville. You may be disappointed in the lack of Battle Frontier, but there are still some Easter eggs for you. First, the music in the Battle Resort is a tropical remix of the Frontier theme. You can even change the music by interacting with somebody near the loudspeaker. Also, when battling a Chatelaine, the music will be a fully remastered version of the Frontier Brain theme. You can also rematch Wally here as the big cherry on top of the Battle Maison. Between the Battle Tower model and several NPC interactions, it's clear we're standing on the grounds of what has chronologically yet to become the eventual Battle Frontier. We might even seen Pike Queen Lucy before she got all pampered up. And it also contains an infinite loop for you to cycle in for hatching eggs. The several utilities that they've added to this game are just so helpful and convenient. There's 2 Aqua and Magma Grunts here that have given up on their ways and want you to take their beloved Camerupt and Sharpedo as a means of penance. And the extra event with Looker gives us insight to his origins, as canonically this seems to be the first time he appears in the Pokemon franchise. And if nothing has convinced you so far, look no further than the Whismer Shuffle minigame that you can play to win pointless rewards in consolation to no Battle Frontier. Seriously, this game is flushed with heart. Every piece of it flourishes with detail and care. The secret base decorations you can spend months inching towards, the berries you can spend weeks harvesting, soaring above Hoenn and getting a geographical understanding of how everything connects, and even discovering secret areas, diving underwater and discovering secret items, Pokemon hideouts and secret base headquarters, the extensive and mysterious quest to unlock all 3 sleeping Golem Pokemon, the entire episode at the end of the game that retroactively details how each Pokemon cartridge, region, and universe is connected, gorgeous revivals of nostalgic music, and kick-ass original tracks, especially songs like the credits theme that reprises familiar tunes down memory lane, and Let's Go Home, a slower, more emotional version of the rival theme that plays when Brendan and May reunite in the end. All of the character redesigns that just heighten your childhood to a new level. This game might not have as many gameplay attractions and facilities as Heart Gold or Soul Silver, but in terms of world building, culture, lore, and soul, Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire is king. A colorful explosion of joy, nostalgia, mystery, and adventure awaits! If you like this video, you can see some more of my exposés and Pokemon Fire rap version, and more Pokemon rap songs on my main YouTube channel, Matt Furio. That's all for you today.